Hong Kong recorded over 40 million mainland visitors last year. What was undoubtedly a great boost for the local economy had other, less attractive side effects. Overcrowded trains on MTR, sold-out supplies of baby milk powder, conflict between tourists and local people, and so it went. The negatives also fueled social conflict between Hong Kongers and mainlanders. James Tien, the former chairman of the Hong Kong Tourism Board, hurried to remind people of the benefits tourism brings to offset the minor inconveniences.
Personally, my view is that if you look at cosmopolitan cities around the world, we could take Paris in France, London in England, or New York in the States, or even Tokyo out of Japan. None of them have what you suggested. Shall we put a cap on the number of tourists allowed into their city? So that's why I don't think we should set such a limit either. Because if you let the free market operate the way it should, if the hotel rooms are a little bit higher, the airplane tickets are a little bit higher, eventually the number of tourists to Paris, London, or New York will slow down. And at the same time, the spending ability of the tourists will also go up. And if that's the case, I think the problem that the Hong Kong people faces with our tourists, especially from the mainland, would also go down. On the other hand, if Hong Kong thinks there are too much tourists in that sense, then obviously the suggestion of building more hotels, the suggestions of building more shopping centers to accommodate more tourists might not be welcome. So Hong Kong as a whole have to decide. If we build more hotels, more tourist attractions, then of course more tourists will end up in Hong Kong. If we don't want that problem, then we will have to lose some economic benefit generated by tourists in Hong Kong. And these economic benefits, if we carefully analyze it, really helps the low-income group. The tourists generate income and create a lot of jobs for the low-income grassroots people.
Tien says a cap on the number of mainland tourists being widely proposed, or a departure tax, would harm Hong Kong's interest. He suggests the government add a provision to multiple entry visas, restricting visitors from entering Hong Kong more than once a day.
Firstly, I think it's difficult to introduce a cap. Do you introduce a cap to mainland visitors in general, and not a cap in Southeast Asian tourists or long-haul American and European? That sounds a bit funny to our compatriots in the mainland. Hong Kong is a SAR, part of China. Why would we want to restrict our own compatriots from visiting Hong Kong? Departure tax is a different issue, because the departure tax will also hurt Hong Kong people leaving Hong Kong as well. If you do that, especially at the Shenzhen border, then Shenzhen border on the Shenzhen side could also argue what happens if they also put a departure tax on Shenzhen. And I think it will hurt our Hong Kong people more than the residents from Shenzhen, because obviously if we count the figures, there are more Hong Kong people going across the border to Shenzhen every day than Shenzhen people coming to Hong Kong every day. I think of the 50 million that we're talking about 10 million comes over on a multiple entry, but they come in several times a day. Those are not really visitors. I think those are just parallel traders. In fact, you could say that it's illegal workers. So I'm suggesting to the central government that on their side, that they restrict these people leaving Shenzhen to Hong Kong to once a day. Because the true tourists, in our view, will not have to come over Hong Kong several times a day. So I think that this will reduce it by about 10 million a year.
Tien also said he believes that friendly understanding and conversation with local people might help mainlanders to correct some behaviors that local people consider offensive. He added, greater public education by mainland authorities would help too.
Well, I think if we look at overseas experience as the whole city, I think the right way is actually to have a nice word with them. telling them that what you have been doing is not really acceptable to Hong Kong, to a modern society. And I'm sure by talking nicely to them, the tourists will understand. It's just like Hong Kong tourists going to Europe or America 10 or 15 years ago. We used to do things that they find unacceptable too. But I think on the mainland visitors' side, the mainland authorities should also sort of convey the message to their people that when you go abroad, whether to Europe or to Hong Kong, there are certain things that you should be aware of, such as, whether you should spit on the public, or whether you should jump a queue in waiting for purchasing something.